I'm Irene Lee. I'm with the Annie E. Casey Foundation. We're a national foundation based here in Baltimore, Maryland, dedicated to improving outcomes for kids. We were created in 1948 by Jim Casey, the founder of United Parcel Service, who believed that kids do well when families do well, and families do better when they live in supportive neighborhoods. My first experience with GCIR was in the late 1990s when Darren asked me, "Come around with me so we can see if we can recruit other funders." And we thought it would be really straightforward and easy. It was one of the toughest set of meetings I've ever had as a funder. We met with lots of smart, committed local and national funder colleagues, and they all told us the same thing. Our foundations don't focus on immigrant populations. And I was struggling with the same issue at my foundation. Fast forward to 2000. What happened? What changed? The census. The census really affirmed what GCIR's board and staff already knew, that immigrants do matter, whether you're in rural, suburban, or urban communities, in school settings, and in workplaces. I'm the child of Korean immigrants who settled in the Midwest, and I saw this transformation happen in my parents' hometown of Council Bluffs, Iowa, which is now has a very large Latino population. In 2000, at the Casey Foundation, we were just launching our 10-year, 10-city comprehensive change initiative called Making Connections. Because we lead with data, we looked at who lived in these neighborhoods, in these 10 Making Connection cities, and we found that a quarter to a half of the residents were foreign-born immigrants in a large number of these Making Connection sites. So I immediately turned to Darren and GCIR and said, come and be my thought partner on trying to figure out what do we need to do to help poor and working poor immigrant kids and families in these neighborhoods succeed. One of the first things that we decided to do was hold a national convening with all of our Making Connection sites and invite in the resident leaders. So Darren helped commission papers. Her staff helped identify a host hotel that would really feel comfortable to these resident leaders, many of whom didn't have credit cards, had never traveled outside of their community. We needed translators in multiple languages. We had very complicated audiovisual needs. Folks were coming in from all over the country, and GCIR's board and staff were terrific in partnering with me on a national convening on strengthening immigrant families. Actually, in terms of what happened as a result of that national convening, the Casey Foundation, resident grassroots community leadership really matters. It makes a difference in terms of authentic demand, in terms of sustainability, in terms of who should really be defining what the agenda is. And that first national conference on strengthening immigrant families that GCIR co-sponsored with the Casey Foundation was not only hugely successful as a kickoff conference, but really helped build a set of community resident leaders who are now on school boards in White Center, Seattle, who now are leading school reform efforts in Denver, who now are looking at family success centers in Providence, Rhode Island. As we head into the 21st century, I really look forward to partnering with GCIR on closing the gap on poverty and creating opportunity for vulnerable immigrant families. And the reason I think it's so critical that GCIR become an increasing presence on this issue of poverty and opportunity is that right now, as we enter the 21st century, more than 40 million people in the United States are living below the poverty line. Of those, 13 million are children, and of those 13 million children, about a quarter live in immigrant families. That means a family of four only has $21,000 for food, shelter, transportation, school supplies, and other basic necessities. For GCIR to look at what are the immigrant-specific advocacy, policy changes, and program design changes that will make a difference for these struggling immigrant kids and families to succeed, I think is a next generation issue. So I look forward to partnering with GCIR on this poverty opportunity agenda. If I was to summarize GCIR's value add, I'd highlight 3 things. The first is leadership. GCIR's board and staff are top-notch. They've provided continuous thought leadership for the Casey Foundation and for the field of philanthropy. The second strength I'd highlight is learning. GCIR's board and staff are really committed to bring together funders on a learning agenda that's open, that's accessible. You don't have to be an expert. They really are very, very supportive of learning across foundations and funders. And the third area of strength that GCIR brings value is around leverage. GCIR's reputation and relationships provide a safe space so that funders, policymakers, and advocates can come together, talk about what our common issues are, what our different approaches are, and still say we are on the same team trying to make a difference for vulnerable immigrant kids and families.